August 14th, 2025.
Yes.
The enactment, we saw it, of this cannabis bill. What does it mean?
Well, thank you, Benson, for yet another invitation to come and have a chat about this cannabis. I'm a managing partner for Makerika Attorneys and an expert in the field of cannabis. The bill was enacted on the 14th of August,
Okay.
and I'm going to discuss a few things in relation to the establishment of the NCCA, which is the authority for governing and controlling compliance for cultivation of cannabis. Talk about security measures and licensing, as well as the punishment or penalties for people and bodies who may be able to fail to comply with the statute.
Okay. And before we get there, I'm not trying to interrogate you.
Yes.
I'm not trying to go into your personal credentials.
Yes.
But how did you become a cannabis expert? You are a lawyer, of course.
Yes.
I expect you to be that attorney. You speak on various fronts, and I'm sure that you are within your discipline. You are varied in terms of what you can speak for, what you understand legally, right? Cannabis, then, we have it here, and we call you an expert. How did that come about?
Well, my first interaction with cannabis was in 2019. I had a client who was at the time given some licensing by the Minister of Agriculture to cultivate hemp in Botswana.
Before COVID?
Yes, before COVID.
Okay.
And at the time, my client was granted such an exemption to cultivate in terms of the Plant Protection Act. But later, and I would like to say because of some politically motivated reasons, that hemp was uprooted. And that is when I took it upon myself and my client's instructions to then litigate against government. Okay. I think at that point we were not successful. The resolution from government was that we must build value chains before we can start to cultivate. But unfortunately, that took so long. But in that time, I had developed so much interest in cultivation of cannabis, as well as the economic benefits of cultivating
cannabis.
Thanks
to the representation of your client.
Indeed,
That's when you
indeed,
got to acculturate yourself
Yes.
in the whole industry of cannabis.
Yeah, so I have traveled around in South Africa, Lesotho, and Swaziland to appreciate personally and physically plantations.
And this was a personal mission?
Yes, it was, and it is.
Okay.
Yes.
Before we get to the bill, you have prompted another question. At court, they said, okay, before we can plant, start the cannabis business, let's first create the value chain. What is the value chain of this cannabis, if you were to dissect it for us and just lay it bare for us?
The value chain of cannabis, and actually it's in the Act, it tends to have different licensing for different bodies. Firstly, one, there'll be licensing which is separate for cultivation of cannabis, production, manufacturing, transportation, processing, and many other things that the authority is going to license to Botswana and all bodies. So that is the opportunity that is going to be unlocking within the economy. And also, I would like to also at the end of this interview also share with Botswana what business opportunities I think this Cannabis Act presents to Botswana.
Beautiful. The Cannabis Bill now establishes that legal framework for medicinal and industrial use. I've mentioned this in my introduction.
Yes.
But how comprehensive do you think the bill's regulatory provisions are in terms of ensuring production and distribution of cannabis that is adequately monitored? Okay, very key, and controlled.
Well, I have read the Cannabis Act together with other acts which were there before this enactment. And of course, as you may know, there is already the UN Single Convention on Narcotics of 1961, which most of the regulations are borrowed from. But before that, we have the illicit traffic of narcotic drugs and psychotropic substances, together with the Medicinal and Related Substances Act. And we also have the Plant Protection Act. Those were the core and the base of the use of plant cultivation of cannabis before the enactment of the Cannabis Act. I think the Act prescribes that upon the setting up or establishment of the NCCA, which is the National Cannabis Control Authority, we shall set up a board. It shall prescribe a couple of things which will mean that they have not...
This is according to what was presented in Parliament and adopted, right?
Indeed.
Okay.
So there are a lot of prescriptions that are yet to be put in that Act. I think the Act is it's a good step, and I think we are developing our cannabis industry, and I think with time we'll be able to have a better Act.
Okay.
But I think it's a good step. We haven't done this before, and I think we will need at some point to amend our acts, because at some point you will have the Plant Protection Act, the Narcotics Act, and the Cannabis Act
They'll be
somewhat
brushing against
conflicting,
each
but
other.
they are all statutes and they're all the same level.
Okay.
So I think with time, as we develop our cannabis industry, we'll be able to make those amendments.
Okay. I read here it says cannabis bill,
Yes.
but I know that we've been having these two appellations, cannabis and hemp, industrial hemp.
Yes.
Which is which, if you were to draw a distinction for us?
The Act does not necessarily differentiate between the hemp that we know
Medicinal cannabis
and
then
the medicinal
industrial
cannabis.
hemp.
Exactly. So the Act seems to refer to cannabis in general. Therefore, the assumption is that it refers to the industrial hemp and medicinal cannabis. So to that extent, then it means that it then puts control measures on the cultivation of cannabis, be it medicinal or industrial.
Okay.
Yeah, so it does not really specify which one, but then the assumption is that it means both of them.
But all of the two, both
Indeed,
of them
yes.
are included. Let's talk about the licensing aspect, the process of licensing for cannabis growers, the manufacturers, distributors. How do you expect or envisage that it will be structured?
The way the Act has structured the licensing of cannabis is that they don't want to monopolize. At least that's my leanings from the Act.
It's
That they don't
liberal
want
like
to-
that.
Yes, they don't want to monopolize the cannabis industry. In that there will be companies or people who will be given a single license for cultivation only,
Okay.
and then the other one given a license for production, manufacturing, storage, distribution, etc. Unless,
Enabling the value chain now.
exactly. Unless if you then motivate your case, why then you need not only to be granted a license for cultivation and why you need a license for production or manufacturing or even distribution.
Okay. Then the way the licensing would be structured now, ordinarily it would prompt any legal challenges that may arise. The question is, how would that be tackled, coupled with enforcing that particular system or structure that is in place? The legal challenges, the risks, I don't know. You give it to us.
The Act provides for compliance with the Act in relation to avoiding risk that is being caused by this cultivation of cannabis. Firstly, the first one refers to monitoring that there is no divergence or that the cannabis that is being cultivated is not used for any other purpose but for medicinal, industrial, or scientific research. So the Act provides at length what measures are going to be put in place by that authority. And if you may allow me to go into security measures, I also deal with the value chain as I address the security measures is that there is a requirement that there must be visual monitoring systems. This is CCTVs at these facilities. And secondly, there must be some biometric restrictions in that there must be some controlled access. You need to use biometrics to enter or
Going
to
the route of
access.
diamonds now.
Yes, indeed.
Okay, why?
I think because
Because one would ordinarily say, it's a field. I'm farming. I'm cultivating. I'm tilling my land. I'm growing this cannabis. Why cameras? Why biometrics in terms of access and restricted access? Speak to that.
Because the damage that can be caused by by cannabis being easily accessible by anybody is that it can fall into the wrong hands.
Okay.
And any good thing that you know can always be abused. So you want to guard against people who abuse cannabis. That is why we have set in place such kind of restrictions. There are many other countries, even the US, where the use of cannabis has not been used properly, and there's been many people who've been admitted to hospitals because they've either not properly used that substance or whatever the case may have been. We are trying to guard against that and also comply with the health protocols and international standards in terms of the UN Single Convention on Narcotic Drugs.
And then the bill, the act itself now, its strictness on access of this cannabis, where it is being grown, where it is being transported, where it has been packaged, produced, and all that. Its strictness, does it automatically make the concession that perhaps cannabis has got other untoward uses that may be harmful? Are we acceding to the fact that it could be harmful if not used appropriately as per the Act?
Indeed, when I read the Act, there's a section that, in terms of the security measures, that says that where there is a need, there should also be armed guards.
Okay.
So the Act even envisages that the personnel that guards their property should be armed, and that there should be a creation of barriers at those places, including the building of electric fences. And there's a special provision that any facility or any farm where there's cultivation of cannabis, it should be away from any school, because you know what can happen in such a facility. It's near a school, because young people are very innovative.
Okay.
So I think the Act, when it was made or drafted, they had that in mind to say that this is a substance that can be abused.
So it has a druggish effect.
Indeed, it is a drug.
We cannot hide that it can have that druggish effect. Those that take it will end up in certain trances that actually corrupt that sense of decorum, and it's all unacceptable.
Yes.
You and I, all of us, we agree, right? Now, talking about key considerations for Botswana, especially from a legal perspective, is this going to be a balancing act where we are saying the licensing system is here designed now to actually support economic growth, at the same time ensuring legal compliance? What are the potential legal risks there that may arise if licensing procedures are not strictly enforced?
The Act is very strict, but you'd find sections which refer to bodies that either they lease their licenses, or they lease their facilities for the cultivation of cannabis, or they themselves cultivate cannabis. You'll find that there is for bodies who allow leasing of their properties, the fine is 500,000 or 10 years imprisonment, or both. Where
in the event that they fail to do what?
In the event that, in the event that you are found to unlawfully transfer your license to a third party,
okay,
or lease your premises or your facility to a third party to cultivate.
Okay.
And
so if it's given to Benson
yes,
should do it?
If it's given to Benson, yes, Benson himself,
it should not be transferred.
No
fronting.
No, it can't be.
Okay.
Yeah. So the licensing is given for 3 years. And when you renew, you have to make an application and motivate the minister why you want your license to be renewed. So you'd have, for instance, where a party cultivates hemp without being licensed, they can be imprisoned for a term of 10 years or even up to the maximum of 15 years. But that coincides with also another act, which is the illicit traffic of narcotic drugs, which deals with people in possession of cannabis, which also deal with sales and distribution.
But I thought that one is 5 years. Is it not 5 years?
No, Bensi.
How tshwarwa ka motokwane? Ka tlholo ya teng o tshwarela ka motokwane. Ha re bue ka act ya gompieno no.
Yes.
Let's say this year, last year, whoever o tshwarwa ka motokwane, maybe 200 grams, 5 kg, o tshwarwa ka motokwane. Ka tlholo ya teng ke what's the penalty? You are a lawyer in court. What sentence do they give?
The act is prescriptive of the maximum sentencing, right? It says not exceeding. So you'd have an act saying if you are caught in possession of the substance, yes, you should not be in prison for a term not exceeding 10 years.
Okay.
So the amount of years you are going to be sentenced is dependent on how much of it did you have, are you a first offender, and the circumstances surrounding your possession or distribution.
So it's always been steep like that?
It has always been steep.
Okay. I think now someone is asking, what about our health? What about our safety? And then the legal framework in the bill, does it ensure public health and safety? Does it ensure that those are not compromised, particularly with respect to preventing abuse? I know you spoke about that one, and unauthorized use of the same cannabis that we are talking about. The role of licensing authorities that they're going to play in oversight, and also the legal tools that maybe will be necessary to ensure that these licenses adhere to regulations. I really want you to speak to the use of these licenses. When you have it in your hands and it's been issued to you, what does this act say?
The act provides that before you can sell or distribute this cannabis, you must submit a sample to the NCCA for them to do testing and verification. That is in terms of the quality of the cannabis. Secondly, there are other provisions in terms of the Medicinal and Related Substances Act that deals with allowing BOMRA, which is the regulator, to be able to test a sample of your production to see that it complies with the health regulations.
What's there to test? If you have maize meal, if you have watermelon, it is watermelon. What are we testing in cannabis when it is coming right from the plowing field? What are we testing? What is it? Does it have different levels of concentration? What exactly are we testing there? What do we know scientifically that could be found there?
There are many off-takers who are looking for a precise amount of CBD. And even 1% difference in the amount of THC or CBD from your cultivar means that the off-taker will reject that produce. Now you would remember that as much as we say that cannabis actually cleans or filters bad elements from soil, there are many other elements which may contaminate your cannabis. Some of them you'd have such metallic elements such as cadmium or chromium or mercury, which are in the soil, which may contaminate your produce, and some other non-metallic elements such as arsenic and nitrates, which may mean that your production may not be acceptable. And imagine if you have 20 tons of hemp or you have some medicinal produce that you have sent to Canada or Israel, and then it's rejected on that basis alone.
Basis.
That is why then the NCCA, and let me speak to this, and most importantly is this. Government does not have competent capacity to test cannabis. They have tried, but when they do, they recommend that.
Who does?
Government does not have it.
Who has it?
For the most part, I know that government would visit Botswana Bureau of Standards to go and test the substance if it's cannabis. So
that's
if
an
it
arm
has,
of government. That's an SOE.
It is, but it's not meant for testing exhibits. Yes, it is meant for standardization of productions, for testing garment, but not for creating exhibits for conviction of criminals and what have you. So another opportunity is this. We only have labs in Botswana which are used for testing human specimens or samples, which may be blood, urine, fecal matter, saliva, etc. But we have not yet developed labs which test plant cultures or plant materials. So this act is saying
that an opportunity now?
It is, because this act is saying that there is going to be an independent laboratory which is set up specifically for testing these elements. And I don't think at this stage government may not have immediate capacity to build it now. But if there's an independent Botswana who has built one, he may be able to stand a better chance to be appointed as an independent laboratory.
Council Makereke, we don't have time, but it would be amiss if I don't get you to speak to opportunities. You've covered the narcotics, the conventions, legal recreation use versus authorized medicinal use and all that. I think it has been very crystal for those who are watching. If you can speak to the business opportunities that are inherent in this whole thing, speak to Botswana, open their eyes and say, look, here we go.
Yeah, well, there's the mainstream benefit of cannabis. The first one is obviously the cultivation itself, the produce, the manufacturing, the importation, the exportation, and the transportation, right? That is the first part, which is you get the benefit directly from cannabis itself. But then the other ones that I'm referring to, these are the ones in relation to establishing a laboratory which is going to be testing plant materials and cultures. And secondly, there's going to be a tight measure on security. So it is high time that maybe you may want to venture into companies which provide special security for guarding such kind of facilities. And then secondly, you need to have an application. It's not easy to cultivate cannabis. It's not like cultivating mabele and all those things.
Cabbage.
Exactly. It's highly scientific. So you need to have an application that guides you to say, after 3 days you humidify, after 1 month you change this, you do that, you cut this, so you need to have an application. So people in the information and communication technology sector, this is their time to now start working on some blueprints for us to play around with and see what can be done. So it unlocks many other opportunities in the industry.
Okay, in just under 30 seconds, I know we don't have time, but I can't do this at this service. You talk about high levels of security on this thing. You're talking about, it sounds very complicated and it needs a certain level of technical know-how and expertise. Now, the question is, how easy is it for an ordinary Motswana to be able to get this license, to get into the value chain? If at all it is this technical, high-level security, and it needs a certain level of expertise, how easy is it for Motswana, wherever they are, to say, look, I want to venture into this business, or it is for them and not us?
No, I think government has really tried their best to simplify the requirements for an application for a license. I think first, as a Motswana, you need to understand and study, just like I did, and took it upon myself to study and understand what is cannabis, what can you do, how can I be part of it. And then obviously there's the financial element. You need to start somewhere. If you're going to have cannabis, you need to have somebody that you need to sell it to.